Good day, everyone. Welcome to our subject teaching and assessment of macro skills. Teaching and assessment of macro skills is a core component of language pedagogy, focusing on the four foundational language skills. And what are these? You have listening, speaking, reading, and writing, often accompanied by the fifth modern skill, which is viewing. So, guys, take note. It's no longer four, but we included another one, which is viewing. So, let me share to you the learning outcomes for this subject. We will define here what are the macro skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, but I included viewing. Explain the nature and importance of the macro skills, describing the different approaches to teaching and assessing the macro skills, identify the relationship between macro skills and language proficiency, explain why macro skills between macro skills and language proficiency, explain why macro skills are important language learning and communication. Then reflect on their language learning experiences. Let's move on to the other slide. Before I'll go further, let me raise some of the questions for you to ponder while I'm discussing what is this teaching and assessment of macro skills all about. So I have written here four questions. First question, there are, of course, four main language skills, which I mentioned a while ago, wherein I also added viewing, that is number five. So here, reading, writing, speaking, listening, and let's include viewing. So in general, which one do you think is the most important for you? And among the five skills already, not no more four skills because I added viewing. Among these skills, what will happen if one skill will be removed? Then why is it important for teaching activities to be designed or planned? What things must a teacher consider when teaching the different macro skills? Let's take note of the nature and importance of these macro skills. As I mentioned, language proficiency is built upon these foundational macro skills. We have listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing. Okay, the the fifth was added, which is viewing. So why is it that all of this are important? Okay, let's find out. I hope you were also have this in your mind. You are also thinking, is it really important that we have these five skills? Take note, guys, that the term macro skills refers to the primary foundational clusters of competencies required for successful communication. In language education, there are, of course, traditionally, these are, I mean, traditionally categorized into four, which I mentioned a while ago, and then we added the other one, which is viewing. So they are called macro. Why? Because they represent broad, overarching categories of language use as opposed to micro skills, which are the smaller, discrete components of language, such as grammar rules, vocabulary words, phonemes, and punctuation. So, what are the nature of macro skills can be understood through this can be understood through two primarily or primary classifications. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here we have here the receptive versus productive skills. Under receptive skills, we have there receptive skills. It is considered the input. Under this are the two skills. We have listening and reading. As you can see in the slide, it says there, students receive and process information. So these skills, guys, involve receiving, processing, decoding also, at the same time interpreting information from one side source. They require passive recognition, but active cognitive processing to construct meaning. While the other skill is what we call the productive skill. This time, it's more of the output. And what are those skills under productive skills? We have speaking and writing. Here, students produce language to express thoughts. So, to explain further about this, take note that these skills involve actively producing, encoding, and expressing thoughts, ideas, and feelings. They require the learner to retrieve language patterns from memory to concrete message structure. Okay? So I hope you're learning. Take note, guys. These skills do not operate in isolation. They are the primary tools for communication, cognitive development, and academic success. Master think critically and articulate complex ideas. Okay. To add more to this, guys, okay, let me have another slide. Okay, not yet. To add more to this, take note that in listening and speaking, these are ephemeral, time bound, and rely heavily on auditory processing, pronunciation, intonation, and immediate context. While for reading and writing and viewing, these are graphic. Of course, we look at some figures, graphics, no? So reading, when you read, you also use the sense of seeing. Same thing with writing. So for reading, writing, and viewing, these are graphic, permanent, and of course allow for review and editing. So they rely on visual processing, structural organization. Okay? So to discuss further about this, take note, guys, that macro skills do not exist, as I mentioned, in isolation. They are actually deeply interconnected. That's why we could not remove one skill from the other for from the five skills. Each of the skills are very important, no? They are very important. We could not remove one or any of this. So macro skills do not really exist in isolation. They are deeply interconnected. For instance, in a natural conversation that we are always doing, guys, no? So listening instantly, of course, triggers speaking because when you listen, you'd like to, and if you really you are interested with, you find the topic, for example, upon listening, you find the topic very important, very interesting. What do? You engage yourself, right? And then you want to express your thoughts and ideas. So therefore, it triggers speaking. So listening instantly triggers speaking. So in academic settings, reading, for example, a research paper frequently serves as the direct foundation for writing a report. Okay, so you need to write, no, in doing the research work, research paper, you really need to write there, write a report. So you practice your writing skills. So the importance of macro skills, guys, take note that macro skills or mastering the macro skills is vital because they form the bedrock of human interaction. Specifically, not only human interaction, but cognitive development, as I mentioned a while ago. And not only that, but societal functioning. Okay, next. Let's move on to the relationship between the macro skills and language proficiency. Okay. What is now the relationship of macro skills and language proficiency? Here we have their interconnected. Okay? So interconnected. Progression is one skill directly enhances performance in another. Example, extensive reading expands vocabulary and exposes students to complex grammatical structures, which naturally improves their writing and speaking output. The other one is the threshold hypothesis. A certain level of competence is receptive skills is necessary between a learner can achieve a high proficiency in productive skills. True language proficiency is achieved when a learner can seamlessly, transition between input and output in real world contexts. So these are the two relationship between macro skills and language proficiency. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let's have the approaches. The approaches would be number one, we have here communicative language teaching. And then what is this communicative language teaching? It focuses on authentic communication and interaction rather than the rote memorization. And then integrated skills approach, teaching skills in tandem. Okay, so reading a text, for example, and then discussing it or listening to a dialogue and writing a response. So meaning to say, it's an integration, no, of a lot of skills, no? Tandem. That's why we put there tandem rather than isolating them. Okay, so these are the approaches. And then for the assessment, okay, we have here assessment strategies. We all know this already actually. So, but let me add first in the going back, communicative language teaching. Let me add. Okay, here, because I said it focuses on authentic communication and interaction rather than root memorization. So here we may use real life situation so that students could, of course, by merely looking for example, pictures, okay, or things that happen to them, their experiences, they would, of course, express their own selves, no, using the language. That's why using real life situation, interactive tasks rather than mechanical drills. This is more of the communicative language teaching. Another example would be role plays and simulation. Okay, role playing. Okay, so these are some of the activities that we could do in communicative language teaching, allowing students to practice language in specific contexts. For example, simulation, role play of ordering food in a restaurant, or example also of role playing could also be interview, job interview. Okay, so in this activity, we're letting the students to, of course, express themselves. So that's why it's communicative language teaching, role plays and simulation. And another could be information gap activities like pair work, where students A has information, students B lacks, forcing them to speak to bridge the gap. So they will be helping they will be helping each other. Okay, that's why it's a peer group, peer work. Okay, where students A has information, student B lacks, they will help each other. And then another activity that we could do here is the scaffolding, providing sentence frames or vocabulary banks to build learner confidence. Okay, and then integrated skill approach, teaching skills in tandem. I've mentioned this one already. Okay, and then for the assessment strategies, it's very important for us to use strategies in the assessment. We have to assess our students, their performance, okay, and what are some academic performance, and what are some examples that we could use in the assessment strategies. We have here formative assessments. So these are the different kinds of assessment actually. Formative assessment. So under formative assessment, we have ongoing checks. What do we check? The quizzes. We have quizzes, and we also need to quizzes. Under formative, we also have debates, running records to guide learning. And then for the summative assessment, guys, end of unit evaluation. For example, here are essays, standardized tests, oral presentation. And another strategy that we could have for the assessment would be the performance base. Okay. But performance base is not new anymore, no? But usually we only know two, formative assessment and summative assessment. We forgot this one, performance based, but it was introduced by Wiggins before during I think that was way back 2014. Um, the UBD, if you are familiar with the UBD, understanding backward design. Okay, in that frame, they use this kind of performance based, no? So assessing how well students can actually use the skills in practical scenarios using rubrics. So we use rubrics here to evaluate the performance of our students. So rubric-based evaluation, assessing performance across specific criteria. What are those criteria? Can be fluency, accuracy, grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Okay, so that's it. For assessment method, guys, uh, we could also have other methods. I may include closed test, removing every, for example, numbers, words from a passage to assess context-based reading comprehension and syntax. And then we could also have the comprehension questions, open-ended or multiple choice. Okay, multiple choice questions can be done for assessment, and these are some examples of the methods. Multiple questions targeting factual retrieval, inference, and critical analysis. And we could also have summary writing in English, testing whether the student can extract the core message of a longer text. Okay. Okay. There are a lot of actually assessment, okay, for that we could use. I mentioned formative assessment. We could also have as method, no, assessment methods. Could also have here formative for folios. What is this? It's a collection of drafts and final pieces showing students' growth over time. Okay. Okay. So take note, guys, that when designing or choosing assessments for macro skills, educators rely on four pillars. What are these? So if we have macro skills, we have five skills here in the assessment. When designing or choosing assessments for macro skills, we also have this four pillars. What are these? We have the validity, reliability, I mean, authenticity, and what we call the washback effect. Okay, so what is this validity that I'm telling you? Validity, you may ask this question: does the test actually measure the specific skill it claims to measure? Sample, for example, evaluating a speaking test based on speaking, not just writing down answers. And then the second one is reliability. So you may ask question like to yourself, is the assessment consistent? Would different raters give the student the same score using the rubric that you prepared? And then authenticity. Do the test mirror real world language used? And for the last one would be the washback effect. So you may ask here, does the test positively influence how the skill is taught in class? So I hope you learn from our discussion for this day. So so I hope to see you once again for the next topic. Okay, guys. Goodbye.